My name is Chris Harvey from ADSK. We're here today to talk about consulting support for Autodesk partners such as yourselves, and this is specifically relating to NVIDIA Grid GPU deployments. I think most of you will be familiar with NVIDIA and their place in the market and what difference this has meant to virtualization. A key player, and we've seen some big movements in the technology in the recent time period. Now, most of you will also know us as ADSK. For those of you who don't, I'll just give you a quick sort of overview. We sit in a very niche marketplace where we specialize on virtualization of 3D design and CAD applications. We have basically a lot of experience in this area. We did the original testing for Autodesk on the AutoCAD and Revit ranges before they were made Citrix ready and ready for virtualization. We've done additional testing with NVIDIA on the scalability of applications to be used with their Grid GPU cards. So we spent 6 years in this area as virtualization specialists, and that's given us a depth of knowledge and experience in these applications, because unlike office-based applications, these resource-hungry applications take a lot more work, a lot more optimization to get them to work successfully and deliver the performance that the users need in a virtual environment. I've said here we've done hundreds of supported deployments. I don't know the exact number, to be perfectly honest. We have hundreds globally, and these are successful supported deployments in live production environments. And we still support those environments currently with our support desk, which runs 24/7. And that's really where we sit in this. Now, the testing services we talk about here, we deal a lot with different vendors in terms of testing their applications to work on Citrix and indeed VMware at times, but certainly in virtual spaces. So I mentioned there Autodesk. I've also mentioned NVIDIA, who we're doing testing for. We're all testing for Intel currently in terms of their embedded GPUs. And what that really means is that we're at the forefront of this technology. We're at the leading edge with the new developments, and that could be new developments from Citrix, from NVIDIA, or various players in the virtual space. So, you know, we already tested the latest products that Autodesk are releasing, the 2016 releases. We've tested all of those on Citrix and in virtual spaces. So we're really at sort of the leading edge to help people successfully deploy these. And this, for you guys, is really to help you support your customers better in these type of deployments. Now, the reason we talk about this, actually, I'll just drop back. The reason we talk about this at the moment, we've seen, I suppose 10 years ago, we saw a massive push, probably more than that now, the big push towards server virtualization. Now it's so commonplace, people wouldn't even consider not doing it. And we're really in the position now where application and desktop virtualization is very much like server virtualization was then. In the future, people are just not going to have workstations, really expensive workstations that need managing, sitting on their desks. Virtualization is becoming, now with the new technologies, not just financially viable, but also from a performance perspective, a very viable option for clients as they move forward, trying to reduce costs in terms of management, trying to ease the management situation. The mobility of users is becoming more and more relevant, people wanting to work on a variety of different devices. All of these things are pushing virtualization and centralization to an extent forward and making it much more viable as an option. So your clients are out there looking at these solutions, and what we're really here to help you with is to help you deliver those solutions to your clients. And today's webinar is really about that, about what services we can offer to you so that you can give the best solutions to your clients, and how we support you with those. So when we talk about partnerships, there's various things people read into this, and I'll just quickly flash over where we are. In terms of partnerships that we're looking for, we talk about commitment. Well, we've done partnerships previously. Some people on the webinar today, you know, have signed partnership agreements with us, and we've worked with in the past doing webinars to their client bases, doing different marketing pushes. What we're really doing now is sort of stepping back from the amount of commitment that we expect from people. You can do this with us basically on a lead referral basis. If you have a client who is looking at virtualization, give us a shout. We'll lend our support with you. And basically these are your clients. So the way we view it is these are your clients, they're not our clients, so we're going to help you and be your trusted partner in dealing with those clients on your behalf, or indeed with you. And this, I think, is the key point here. There's many different ways that we can support you with these clients, and I'll run through that. And it's really about us supporting you with the areas you need support in, and that might be from scoping out the project in the first place, it might be in the initial sales engagement, it might be in the optimization of the applications, it may be the whole total deployment of those applications in the virtual space. It depends what levels of skills you've got with the virtualization technologies. So basically you can come to us with a lead, refer that lead, you'll get the lead protected, and we'll support you with that lead through that sales cycle and through that process. I've got a note in here, cost of knowledge. This a very similar presentation we do to Citrix partners. We work with a number of different Citrix partners globally. For them, this is a relevant point because it's what's the cost of them getting the knowledge that we have. How long will it take them to get their teams up to speed on 3D design apps and the virtualization of those apps? And really, for Citrix partners, and a lot of your clients may have existing Citrix partners in working with them already. We don't come as a challenge to them. We're not competition to them. We work hand in hand in supporting them, because the average Citrix partner doesn't have the knowledge of dealing with 3D applications and doesn't wish to gain that knowledge, because it's a changing market. There's new stuff coming on the market all the time, and it's the ability that we have to stay on top of that and be at the forefront of that technology that really keeps our niche place in this market, and means Citrix partners won't want to do that. So what it means for you guys is, of course, you've got these skills that you can fall back on. You can go straight to market. You can take this straight to market as a strategy using our support services to help you deliver these solutions to your clients. Now, believe me, I am absolutely certain that if you look around, you will have clients who are looking at this as an option for their future deployments of 3D design and CAD users. And there's a lot of big reasons why they do that. So let's talk about the services we can help you with on this. And this is what we're going to really focus on today, is what services we can give you, why you'd want to take those services from us. So in essence, I put here the first one, which is training. This training can be training for your sales team. Who are the sort of key target markets? Where should they be pitching this? Which clients is this going to fit? Where are the sweet spots where you're going to be looking at clients looking for virtualization as a viable solution? Perhaps somebody with multiple offices who requires collaboration, maybe somebody who's got field representatives. You know, we've just done a construction company who basically on each one of their new construction sites, it takes them 3 months to get any communications onto the site. So during that period, they're working off paper plans or carrying around very expensive laptops. In order to keep up to date, we've done a virtualization solution for them, and this is running Revit, running CAD, you know, standard applications, and they're now actually streaming those down on 3G via mobile phone, streaming them to a laptop, and able to run Revit and look at plans while they're on site for that first 3-month period. So there's lots of different fits for this technology, and we can help train your sales guys so that they can understand where that fit is and where's going to be who's going to be the right clients to target for these kind of solutions. Next to that, I've put the technical and solution architects. If you've got guys designing solutions, we can also help your technical guys understand a little bit more about how this virtualization technology works, so that they can ensure the client's scoping out the project properly. They can make sure they know what kind of questions to ask to get the right information. Because once you bring things into a virtual space, it's very different than the traditional distributed workstations that we look at. And there's different information that we need to understand, and there's different information that your guys should be looking for. So we can help your tech guys, your solution architects design these solutions, and within that, equally knowing when to lean on us for support, when to come to IMS CAD, what information we're going to need from them in order to support them with these solutions. So we can help with that level of training. Now, next up on the list, lead development. Quite simply, you can bring us into play here, and this could be you could bring us in for a call. You could bring us in for a face-to-face meeting with the client or conference calls, whichever it is. And the purpose of that will really be to scope out the opportunity, for us to understand what the opportunity is with the client and really understand if it's a viable proposition to take forward into a virtual platform. Within the sales cycle, we would normally end up, and we can support you use of our demo servers. We have demo servers set up running all of the applications that your clients will be using, and this is across both AEC and the manufacturing space. So they will be available to you. You can use that as a resource, and it's a really strong resource and as a sales tool. It really does, as we always say, seeing is believing, and it's key for these clients. They want to see this working for real. On the demo servers, we can allow them to upload their own data so that they can see real files, not massaged files that we've given them, but real data working really on the applications that they want to use. And that gives them confidence to take these solutions forward, knowing that this is something that's actually going to be viable for them. In terms of moving the lead development forward, we'd normally look at prospect calls, meetings, the opportunity scoping, the demo server access, and then next to that we've got environment analysis. What you will have is a number of clients who have already looked at doing deployments, that potentially have problems with their deployments, and the services we offer there come around sort of infrastructure analysis, where we do a remote session assessment of the existing infrastructure, give advice on the best practices for the infrastructure design. And this is quite key because there's a lot of things in the infrastructure which can upset the application and therefore the user's performance. For the user, they might see, you know, a laggy mouse or slow cursor movement. That's latency, but where is that latency? Is it latency on the network? Is it latency in the infrastructure? And these are the bits that we can really help identify and really sort of give that push to help people who have done this but who are having problems. Simple things in the infrastructure. We often see one of the biggest things that people get wrong is management of their network connections. We see a lot of mistakes made around the storage and the requirements of storage, where, you know, size of storage isn't everything. In our case, where you're talking about virtualization, we really need performance of storage, so it's about the IOPS performance, not about available RAM or indeed storage sitting in the background. So there's just differences in virtualization that we understand, and we can help analyze and resolve problems. On the applications themselves, application analysis is a key point. We've done deployments for people who've come to us with 2,000 plus applications that they wanted to virtualize. Obviously, there's some rationalization that needs to go on. It's not practical to virtualize 2,000 applications. Maybe you're going to settle, instead of having AutoCAD 2007, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12 and onward, maybe you take it at the DWG versions. There's different cut-off points. You can do this if you've got to support old projects and old models. So it's really assistance with that rationalization, analysis, and making recommendations on how best to deal with the applications. And this could be packaging of applications. There could be different deployment processes in place within those clients that they need support within in getting these right to be put into a virtualization platform. Also, the other point here, which is users, which is a real key one. If you don't understand the user's workflows, you're not going to deliver a virtual solution that's going to support those users. It's really understanding how many different users, the different locations, the workflows of those users, and ultimately then how many golden images are we building to support those users, because each golden image will need to be managed. So we obviously want to keep the golden images to a minimum, but what we don't want to do is create an overloaded image with, say, 80 or 100 applications that's trying to support 5 different user groups. So it's quite important to really get down to the users and understand what they need within the image, what applications they touch. You know, are they linking up with Excel? Are they linking up with other tools that they're going to need in their day-to-day work? So it's really understanding that and being able to put that into a design and a solution that's going to take them going forwards. Now, in terms of the solution design, the analysis of the users, the applications, the infrastructure, an environment overview document, which we'll normally get from people, will allow us to design the solution itself, tell you what hardware is going to be recommended. Obviously, we can talk about different manufacturers of hardware, different OEMs, but really, you know, we know what we need from the hardware. We know most of the hardware for most of the different manufacturers. We're currently doing testing with Hewlett-Packard on some of their servers. So we've worked a lot with Dell, with Cisco. You know, the list can go on and on. Supermicro, you can go on and on about the various hardware. What we really need to understand and advise is what specifications we need to achieve with that hardware. The choice will often be determined by the client because they have a hardware preference or support in place with a particular manufacturer. So we can help with the hardware, specifying the hardware, recommendations on the infrastructure design, talk about best practices, how you need to set your network up, the NICs, the storage, all of the different bits which are going to have a massive impact on the successful delivery of these 3D resource-hungry applications on the virtual space. So really we're talking about the physical and the virtual infrastructure design, and from there recommendations on what the image build should be and how many of those image builds. So that, in essence, is sort of the services offered as a start point, but we'll go on from there because this may be very different for many of you out there who are traditionally application vendors or sellers and supporters. So a lot of you will be involved in supporting clients with those applications, with training on those applications, with various parts of their solution, but not necessarily possessing the skills to actually deploy this kind of solution for those clients. Well, in those cases, we can get involved and support you with the build, installation, the whole project management, if that's what's needed. And I think the key thing here is all of these are services that we offer. You can take any one of these services or any number of these services. It's all very transparent. Each one of our services is given to you with a timescale as to how long it will take, a charge that it will be for those services, and then a deliverable, what you can expect at the end of that engagement for those services. So we do this across the board on all of the services I've spoken about already, and all of the services I'm now just going to run through with you. So building installation, well, often we'll see a pilot project done for the client as the first step. We can build these, we can set these up, we can support this with trial licensing on Citrix, trial licensing even on Microsoft, so we can really help people basically get this up and running for a limited cost. What you'll also find is a number of the vendors will, the hardware vendors will quite happily offer their servers these days on a try and buy scheme, which means that without a hardware expenditure, without the cost of the software, we can actually get up and run a pilot and manage a pilot for a client at a reasonably low cost. Obviously there are some fees involved for our services, but really we can set these up and get these people up and running and trying this for real. Bearing in mind most of them will have been on our demo server and seen, you know, the application performing in a manner that's suitable across the wide area network, but a lot of people still want to run a pilot before they do a rollout to their organisation and across their estate. So pilot production's next step, obviously, as we move forward. We can build the environments, we can then roll out, give all of the recommendations on all of the different aspects that we talked about earlier, about the applications, about the infrastructure, about the users. Indeed, you know, the golden images, how many of those we need, whether it's optimization of a built environment that you need us to do. All of these different bits that we can come in, and you know, with the images it can be functionality testing, the optimization can be optimization of the environment, can be the applications themselves, all of this in order to achieve the kind of performance. And when we're talking about performance here, you know, the target really should be that we're looking at workstation comparable performance even over the wide area network. And this is what users need. They want to see a quality, a level of performance that they're used to at their workstation. The difference being they want to have that on any device at any time, wherever they are. And this is really what this is about, is making this available. But in order to do this, there are, of course, different tools for these remote users that we need to talk about. We have products called CloudBridge, which is a WAN optimization tool, NetScaler, which again assists network traffic, but also provides a security layer. So these are different tools that we can put into this. We can also support you with monitoring. We've done a lot of development work with a company called Goliath Technologies on their monitoring services, and this monitoring can be put in place on a trial basis to support a pilot, can be taken forward in a production environment, and you know, we can even set up on this a whole, as part of our ongoing support, where we can actually have alerts set up so that if there's something going on one of the virtual machines, even a virtual GPU, we can be notified and do preemptive actions to ease any issues that might affect the users. If we move on, I've put testing and tweaking here. This is really the management of the testing. It's part of the sort of deployment process, but it's a key part of the deployment process, because what we do in deployments, this isn't a case of us rolling out the deployment, getting to the 14 days, 10 days, whatever it is to build the environment, delivering the applications, and then saying, okay, there you go, we're all done. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Every environment we deal with is different. Everyone has a different mix of applications, different mix of tools, different workflows. So it's really a case of us analysing the performance and functionality achieved on those applications, make sure everything's working right. People will have their own standards they want to apply to these. Everyone customises them in their own unique way. And it's really a case of us understanding that and going through that process, that test process that allows us to ensure we deliver the performance and the look and feel that the customer's desiring and the end users want to see on those applications. And whether it's their desktop, whether it's a virtualized app, however that virtualization goes. So we can plan the schedules for the test period. We can support with the design of the user test tasks, analysis of that user test feedback, the monitoring. If we've got that in place, we can look at the monitoring results so that we really can understand what the users are seeing, what impact that's having on the resource, and therefore potentially from there we can do the performance tweaking based on that feedback, based on that analysis. But more than that, we can also get the information from that that's by looking at the monitoring, that's going to give us the real understanding of the solution scalability. So how many users can we roll this out to? If we're in a pilot phase, during the pilot phase we'll be looking at the resource usage against multiple users accessing the system. If we then want to roll that out across the estate, we'll be in a position to know exactly what resource we need to support that, or indeed, you know, assessing the impacts of disaster recovery, high availability, backup policies. All of these things will all come into play in that same rollout plan. So that's basically another service in its own right that we can offer or can just fall into part of the deployment. Now I've put support, and this can cover a load of different grounds. One of the things we do sanity checks for people who've built existing environments. We can look at what they've built. We can look at a solution design perhaps and make recommendations based on what we consider best practices, possibly changes to that design, just to remove problems that we can see in that. And that can just be a simple process as a sanity check, taking 3 day charge, and at the end you get a report and full recommendations based on best practices. So as a service in itself that can be done. I've put on here troubleshooting. Now this troubleshooting optimization can be per event, basically for somebody who's got a built environment with Citrix, with VMware, whatever it is, virtualized CAD applications where they're having issues and the applications aren't performing. We can do a remote session, get in there, have a look at it, see what the problems are, make some recommendations on how to overcome them, and then look at next steps, how to move that forward. Optimization's another one as an individual process that we can do for people, where it is people build environments and just get us involved to do the optimization of the applications and the environment in order to make sure you've got the best performance achievable for those applications. All of these, as I say, as individual chargeable services that we can offer, or do as a complete whole in a solution deployment. Put upgrades there where that's very, very straightforward upgrades of the apps, the OS, or even the virtualization platform we can support with. And of course, last of all, support itself. We do have 24/7 help desk. We've got customers on second, third line support coverage, some of those per event, others on term contracts with full SLAs. So there's a full range of services we can offer there in terms of the support for those deployments. So what does this mean? What does this mean for you guys? They're the services we can offer, but what does this mean for you? Well, we're all there. We're ready to go to market. We're already in the market. What we're trying to help you guys go there and support your clients in this market, because believe me, your clients are looking at these solutions. We speak to many of them at times, and you will have clients there who are looking at this currently. So Do you need to get us on your approved suppliers list? Possibly. Do we need to sign a non-disclosure agreement? Either way, very straightforward things. What I would suggest here is that you don't want to have admin getting in the way of potential sales. So anything like this, if this is of interest, let's do the admin side of it first. Getting us approved as a supplier or an NDA signed is a very straightforward task, so that should be something that could be pushed through fairly quickly if you know you've got a solution and a sales opportunity that you need our support with. If you want to move forward with the staff training, very straightforward. We can set up a webinar for your sales or solutions architects, your technical people. Often we can cover all of them in one webinar, just giving them who should you be looking at, where should you be targeting, what are going to be the sweet spots for the salespeople. Equally, from a technical side, what questions should you be asking? What information are we going to need to know so that we can start designing a solution for that client? Potentially getting a go-to-market strategy. Now, my feeling here, and I put it in the others, who to target the key markets, existing clients, low-hanging fruit. There's many different ways we can go to market. There's many different strategies. You will know your marketplace. We deal on a global basis, so believe me, dealing in the UK is very different than dealing in America. In North America, if you're on the East Coast, it's totally different than the West Coast. I personally do a lot of work in the Netherlands, a very different market there than it is in Germany. So we see, you know your market, so you will be the best one to determine the go-to-market strategy. From our perspective, as I said there, we talk about the low-hanging fruit. If you shake the tree, the low-hanging fruit shall fall. So my suggestion is that you start this with look at potentially doing a webinar talking about the key benefits of virtualization, and you will find some of your clients are already looking at virtualization. So why not put yourself in the marketplace and support them with those deployments? You're already a trusted support partner there, so you're supplying them with licenses, potentially training for their staff. Why not also move up and provide them with the solution to help them into the virtual space? So we can help you with that. If you want to do webinars, we're happy to do those with you. We do joint webinars all the time with various channel partners globally, and it's very easy for us to do that. These systems work very well. GoToWebinar is an excellent resource. But yeah, if you want us to come on a webinar, talk about the benefits of virtualization, talk about the specifics for an industry sector that you're strong in or a key market that you want to address, then we'll be more than happy to support you with that. What can you expect from us? We'll try and make this really clear, actually, and it's really straightforward. We'll give you clear points of contact. You know who you're speaking to at this end. You know who our technical guys are. Equally, who's your sales contact? Who's your training contact? Who are the various people at our end that you need to support? What happens if you get an opportunity? Who do you speak to? How do you help us, or how do we help you get that opportunity move forward? So when your sales guys come up with that opportunity, where do they get support from? We need that as a clear point of contact for them. What are the resources they can expect from us in those points of contact? So we'll make this all really clear to you so that you know what you're getting. Any of the services, and I listed a whole host of them there, some of them will be full deployments for you guys because you haven't got the same skills as some of the Citrix partners we deal with. Confirm response time. If you ask us for a service, we'll tell you how long it's going to take. We'll tell you when you're going to get your response, and we'll stick to it. And the next point is very clearly, the services are clearly defined and the clarity and the scope. Let's be very clear about this. Whenever you're dealing with us, we'll be very clear on what you can expect. If you order a service from us, the scope of that will be clearly defined. The deliverable will be clearly defined. You'll know exactly when you're going to get it, and you'll know exactly what it is you're going to get. It's much easier that way because we don't want to be going backwards and forwards post-event. It's much better to understand the need at the beginning and for us to clearly service that need, you to understand what the scope of that need is, and this is equally going to make communications with the client much easier. If the client asks you something, you need to be asking the right questions back and going back with the right answers that the client wants to hear. So in essence, you're going to know how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost you right up front, and that is something you can then work into your proposal to the client. So we try and make it as simple as possible. And the last point I put on there is, of course, deliverables, because this is the key to it. It's all about deliverables. You're going to know what to expect from us, and that's what you're going to get. It's very straightforward from that point of view. So next steps. I would think you've got clients who have got existing demands out there. I'm sure a number of you have. If you're not aware of it yet, you perhaps should ask the questions and get your salespeople asking the questions, because I fairly certainly will find you've got clients out there who are looking at this technology currently. I would recommend one of your guys, or a couple of your guys, come on our demo server. Try our demo server. See how good these solutions are. You know, seeing is believing, and this demo server is available for clients, for potential sales opportunities that we can support, but equally for you guys. If you guys want to come have a look at the demo server, put up some data, spin around in an application just to see the level of performance we can achieve. And what I will say here, obviously the demo server, you'll be coming in on the open internet. We've got no WAN optimization, so you're really looking at the worst case scenario. And I can assure you, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the level of performance you see when you do try our demo servers, because they're pretty good. And these are not massively over-resourced. These are realistic deployment styles, similar to that we would put into a live production environment. If anything, the products we're available now, the latest CPUs have got better from Intel with the E5 V3s. So we'd be looking at probably putting better hardware, better resource, better infrastructure behind a live deployment than we do the demo ones, but still you'll be very impressed with the performance we can achieve. So as I said earlier, let's get NDA signed if you need them. We're quite happy to do that. We'll protect leads for you. Anything that's registered with us gets protected against your company. So if somebody else tries to come in and take that opportunity, indeed if we are introduced and put into it through another client, we'll still make payment to you against that lead because you were the one who registered it with us. So we have a lead protection scheme, but let's get the NDA signed so that we're all in place. Get us on the approved suppliers register if indeed that's what needs to happen. And then, you know, let's have a chat. Let's further the conversation. Let's talk about going to market. Let's look at what's going to be a go-to-market strategy that's going to suit you, your salespeople, your organisation, and how we can support you with that. I've finally put on there more information. There's always more information needed. If you want to ask any questions, come to us for any further details. We're here. I will put my details on the screen there for you so that you've got all of my contact points. Now, I have rattled through fairly quickly, and we've done this in 35 minutes. Excellent, excellent. That's success in my book today. Now, what I said was we'd go through some questions and answers. So if anybody's got any questions they want to put in now, first one that's come in, maybe I missed this, wanted to know if you provide all these support services via online mediums. Most things can be done remotely, but you doubt everything can be. Well, this is the beauty of virtualization. We can do pretty much everything remotely, unless you want us to meet face-to-face, in which case we do have to come there. Other than that, we literally can do everything on a remote basis. You talk here, you're in India in this particular case. We're doing deployments at the moment in India. We've got Shanghai and India currently on the go. We simply have access in through the ILO, in the case of HP Box, iDRAC if you've got Dells, and from there give us access to the media, and we start loading Zen server, and away we go. Everything can be done remotely. We don't need to have physical people on the ground to do our services, and that's the beauty of virtualization, is that it gives us that freedom to go across geos very simply. Now I'm just flicking down here, seeing what other questions there are for us this morning. Yeah, I've got one other one here about support for an existing deployment where the applications aren't performing. Very straightforward for us. We can, of course, remote access in, look at those solutions, see what assistance we can give, see how we can support those clients, and really just that it falls into the sort of troubleshooting category. It's fairly straightforward. We'd normally do it as a per event. It does depend upon the nature of the environment when we get there and look at it, but troubleshooting normally charge time and materials per event. Might be a remote session for us to just go in, have a look at the environment, try and understand what's wrong. We have some early pointers that we start with. Next question up I'm looking at here is Autodesk licensing. Very good question and a very relevant question. We've had all sorts of problems with Autodesk along the years. Autodesk licensing has changed and of course is changing again in the future. Many of you will not be overly happy about the changes coming in the future, but there are changes. The change of model will be relevant. The actual underlying thing which is pointed out here is the restrictions for geolocations. There is indeed a situation where licenses need to be purchased in the region in which they're being used. There are all different licensing models available from Autodesk. It really is one that you need to speak to Autodesk about. We can give you advice. We have clients that we have deployed where we virtualize licenses in Europe, which are used in the US. We virtualize licenses in the US, which are used in Asia. So we do have flexibility, but it does depend on the specific license of the client in question. Must be NLM. You're not going to put a virtual space unless it's an NLM license. But the license in question, while we can give you some support on that, it really is one that you need to focus at Autodesk. What I can say is one of the things that Autodesk are trying to avoid, I think, is reducing license pools. So they don't want to see you know, a client with 100 licenses reducing it to 50 and then doing a follow the sun approach. That's obviously not in their interest to do that. So while they will support you with virtualization, if you're doing it purely to reduce your license pool, you'll have a less favorable response from Autodesk than if you're using it just as a deployment method for those licenses that you've already got. There is flexibility within that license model. It's not hard and fast. So if you've got the licenses there, you're just deploying them virtually as opposed to deploying them on workstations, then they will be supporting that kind of deployment. I'm looking for now, and have we got any more questions coming in from anybody? At this stage not, which is good news. What I'm going to do in that case, I'm going to thank hang on, we have what is next month in Dubai. Yeah, okay. Lovekesh, what I'll do is I'll take that one offline and come back to you on that, and we'll continue that conversation offline. There's one other up here for Dave. I'll also come back to you on that as an offline matter, because I don't think that's one for everybody's ears, the specifics on it. So let's carry on those conversations offline. What I'm going to do for now, if anyone else wants to drop any questions in, I will pick those up. I want to just say thank you to everyone for your time this morning. I'm going to stop the webinar recording in a moment. I'm just going to answer one other question which just dropped in about security. There's different layers of security within virtualization. Citrix is inherently a very secure platform. It's all encoded and various other things. Actually, the key thing here is that for a lot of companies, that's why they take virtualization. The reason being, the data never actually leaves the data center or the servers or your server room. So the remote users who are accessing from any device can be locked down in whichever way you want, but they don't actually ever have the data. All they're doing is remotely accessing into the data center or the server room and viewing the data. So the endpoint device just becomes a viewing tool. So the data never actually leaves the data center, which inherently provides a far greater level of security. You don't have files and data moving around on the network, going from location to location. It all stays in one place next to the servers, where of course it is inherently much more secure. And all of the traffic, what you're basically moving backwards and forwards, keystrokes, mouse movements, pixel changes, all encoded. So actually it's the most secure route, and a lot of the reason people are moving towards virtualization currently is actually about IP protection. We're in a position now, certainly in the AEC space, where we're seeing far greater needs for collaboration. So for companies who are collaborating, we see it a lot with design users, being different design teams in different areas. Certainly with the increase in BIM, we're seeing different layers in the models. You know, a basic model set up from an architect will end up having 20 different disciplines coming in and adding their layer. What they don't want is that model going backwards and forwards and perhaps being compromised. So everybody now works on the same model, all of the different disciplines remoting in to work on the same model at a single site. Obviously, the other benefit of that is as these model sizes get a lot bigger, the servers are much better able to deal with that big data than the particular workstations of each of those users or user groups. So that's a real win, actually, and that's a big sort of buy-in point for this. These are the sorts of things that we can help you guys with, help train your sales guys with these relevant points that help people go to market, that help you understand the go-to-market strategies. Another question has come in about cloud storage. There's a lot of different cloud-based products out there now, some of which are very good, some offer very good services, some offer different services to different places. What we're effectively talking about here today in terms of what we're deploying are generally what we consider as private clouds. We would recommend that storage needs to be, the data needs to be near the servers. If you're doing application or desktop virtualization, you need to have the data where the servers are to ensure you get the performance. Using cloud storage services is excellent for backups and various other things, but for virtualization we really need a level of data available at the servers themselves to ensure that we can give the performance. Because if the application has to wait for some cloud service to deliver the storage, then you're going to see that as latency for the user, and that's going to impact on the performance. So it's really key that we keep the data and the servers all next to each other. As I said, I wanted to wrap up in 40 minutes today. We've gone a little bit over, but what I will do, as I say, I'll leave my details on the screen if anyone wants to get in touch with me. The recording of today's session will be available, and we will send you all the link. You can listen to this again if there's been any parts that are unclear, share it with a colleague, or just get in touch with us and talk about how to take those next steps and go and pick up some of that low-hanging fruit. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been good to speak to you all. Obviously, some people I know out there, some newcomers that we haven't seen before, so very nice to have reached out to you today. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, and we'll speak to you soon, hopefully.